The message came at midnight, Galactic Standard Time. Every screen on every council station displayed the same words. A human face appeared, old, tired, but calm. Ambassador Dong Sushin looked into the camera and spoke. "We wish you well. We will not return." Then the screens went dark. High Chancellor Morvok of the Galactic Council laughed when he heard the news. He sat in his golden chair, surrounded by the representatives of 11 species, and he laughed until his forelungs hurt. "The insects are leaving," he said. "Let them go." "What use were they anyway?" The other council members laughed too. Councillor Bellix of the Vorathi clapped his clawed hands together. Finally, he said, "No more of their ugly flat faces. No more of their strange smell. No more of their complaints about equal treatment." General Kreth, commander of the council military, simply shrugged his massive shoulders. "We will need to find new crews for the dangerous missions," he said. "But there are always slaves to be found." None of them understood what was happening. None of them cared to look. 300 years ago, humans had joined the Galactic Council. They came with hope in their hearts. They came believing in friendship between species. They came thinking they would be partners in building a great civilization. They were wrong. From the first day, humans were placed at the bottom. The Council had 12 species, and humans were the 12th. The lowest. The least. They were given the jobs no one else wanted. They cleaned the waste systems. They worked in the dangerous mines. They crewed the ships that flew into battle first and died first. When humans asked for better treatment, the Council laughed. When humans asked for representation, the Council ignored them. When humans asked why their children were dying in wars that protected alien worlds, the Council said nothing at all. Admiral Taiho Park remembered the day everything changed. He was 43 years old then, commanding a small human fleet near the Kelthar system. 40,000 human colonists lived on Kelthar 7. Farmers, teachers, children, simple people living simple lives. When the enemy came, the colonists called for help. The Council fleet was only 2 hours away. Admiral Taiho begged them to respond. He begged General Kreth directly. "Those are human colonists," General Kreth had said. "We cannot risk Council ships for worker insects." Taiho watched from orbit as 40,000 humans died. He watched the fires burn across the planet. He listened to the screams on the radio until there were no more screams to hear. That night, something broke inside him. That night, something broke inside all of humanity. Dr. Hannah Kwan was a quiet woman. She worked in a small laboratory on Earth's moon, studying physics that the Council considered impossible. The Council scientists had told her many times that dimensional travel could not be done. They told her that humans were too stupid to understand advanced science. They told her to go back to cleaning floors. Hannah did not argue. She simply smiled and returned to her work. 6 years after Kelthar, she succeeded. She opened a door to another dimension. A parallel space, empty and waiting. She called it New Dawn. Hannah brought her discovery to Admiral Taiho and Ambassador Dongsu. The three of them sat in a small room and talked for 7 hours. When they finished, they had a plan. They called it the Quiet Protocol. For 6 months, humans began to disappear. Slowly at first. A colony here. A station there. The Council did not notice. Why would they notice? Humans were invisible to them. Humans had always been invisible. The human merchant ships stopped flying their routes. Human doctors left their hospitals. Human engineers abandoned the machines they had maintained for centuries. Human soldiers put down their weapons and walked away. 20-8 billion humans lived in Council space. In 6 months, all of them were gone. They did not fight. They did not scream. They did not demand justice or revenge. They simply left. Quietly, completely. Forever. Admiral Taiho was the last to go. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking out at the stars he had protected for 30 years. Stars that belonged to species who had let his people die. "Sir," his lieutenant said, "the dimensional gate is ready." Taiho nodded. He took one last look at Council space. He thought about the friends he had lost. He thought about the children of Kelthor. He thought about 300 years of hope slowly turning into 300 years of pain. "Take us through," he said. The ship slipped into new dawn, and humanity was gone. Back on the council station, High Chancellor Morvok finished laughing. He wiped tears from his 6 eyes and called for wine. "A celebration," he announced. "The insects have finally learned their place. They have run away like the cowards they are." Counselor Bellix raised his glass. "To a cleaner galaxy," he said. General Kreth said nothing. He was looking at a report on his screen. Something about supply shipments being delayed. Something about hospital staff shortages. Something about maintenance schedules falling behind. He dismissed the report. It was probably nothing. Outside, the stars continued to shine. The great stations of the council continued to spin. The fleets continued to patrol their routes. Everything looked the same as it had always looked, but something was missing now. Something that had been so common, so ordinary, so easy to ignore that no one had noticed how important it was. The beating heart of Galactic. Civilization had stopped, and the body did not yet know it was dying in new dawn. Ambassador Dong Sushin stood on the surface of a new world. Green grass grew beneath his feet. Clean air filled his lungs. Around him, human colonists were building homes, planting crops, laughing with joy. A young girl ran up to him. "Ambassador," she said, "is it true? Are we really free?" Dong Su looked down at her. She was maybe 8 years old, the same age as the children who had died on Kelthor. "Yes," he said softly, "we are free." The girl smiled and ran off to play with her friends. Dong Su watched her go. Then he looked up at the alien stars of this new dimension. Somewhere out there, in the universe they had left behind, the council was celebrating. Let them celebrate, he thought. They will learn soon enough. They will learn what we were worth. 3 months passed. The celebrations ended. The problems began. Counselor Bellix noticed it first. His morning meal was late. This had never happened before. For 600 years, food had arrived at his door exactly on time. But today the plate was empty. He called his servant. "Where is my food?" he demanded. The servant trembled. "My lord, the shipments have not arrived. The transport schedule is broken. There is no food in the storage rooms." Bellix felt something strange. Something he had not felt in a very long time. Hunger. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out 1 billion times. On the Varathi homeworld, markets stood empty. On the Kelvorian stations, children cried for bread. On the Drathi colonies, elders starved in their beds. The council had never thought about where food came from. They simply expected it to appear. But now they learned a terrible truth. 73% of all food transport in council space had been managed by humans. The routes, the schedules, the ships, the crews, all human, and now all gone. High Chancellor Morvak called an emergency meeting. The great council chamber, once filled with pride and power, now filled with fear. "What is happening?" Morvak demanded. "Why are my people hungry?" General Kreth stepped forward. His report was long and terrible. Without human logistics officers, supply chains had collapsed. Without human cargo pilots, ships sat empty in their docks. Without human warehouse workers, food rotted in storage while billions starved. "The humans handled these things," Kreth said. "We never trained our own people to do them. We thought such work was beneath us." Morvak slammed his fist on the table. "Then fix it. Train new workers." "It would take years," Kreth replied. "We do not have years. We do not have months. Many worlds will see famine within weeks." The chamber fell silent. Famine. A word the council had not spoken in 4,000 years. But food was only the beginning. On the planet Vorath Prime, Counselor Bellix received worse news. His daughter, young Syrah, had fallen ill. A simple fever, easily treated. But when he called for a doctor, none came. "Where are the medical staff?" He screamed at his servants. "Gone, my lord." The humans staffed the frontier hospitals. They treated the diseases no one else would touch. They are all gone now. Bellix rushed to the medical center himself. He carried his daughter in his forearms, her small body burning with fever. The building was dark. The halls were empty. Equipment sat unused, covered in dust. A single alien nurse remained. She looked at Bellix with tired eyes. "I do not know how to use these machines," she said. "The humans operated them. They trained for years to learn. I only brought them supplies. Then find someone who can help." Bellix shouted. The nurse shook her head slowly. "There is no one. On 12 colony worlds, the hospitals have closed. The human doctors are gone. The human nurses are gone. We do not have enough of our own people trained." Bellix held his daughter close. For the first time in his life, he felt helpless. Far away on Station Korath 7, the lights flickered. Then they went out. Chief Engineer Morven ran through the dark corridors, his flashlight cutting through the blackness. What happened? He called to his team. "The power core is failing," someone answered. "The cooling systems are broken. We need to fix them now, or the whole station will explode." "Then fix them." "We cannot." The human maintenance crews knew how. They kept records, but we cannot read their language. We never bothered to learn. Morven felt cold fear grip his heart. The station held 200,000 people. Families, children. All of them would die. He could not fix the machines, he tried. His team tried. They worked for 6 hours in the darkness, pressing buttons they did not understand, pulling wires they could not identify. The station exploded at dawn. There were no survivors. 3 days later, 2 more stations fell from the sky. One crashed into a populated moon. The death toll reached 5 million. The council held another emergency meeting. This time no one laughed. No one joked. No one spoke of insects. "We must find the humans," Morvac said. His voice was quiet now, tired, afraid. "We must bring them back," asked Counselor Bellix. His daughter had survived her fever barely, but the experience had changed him. They left no trail. They simply vanished. Our scientists cannot explain how. General Kreth brought another report. The Drothi and Kelverins, 2 species with ancient hatred, had begun fighting again. For 200 years, human diplomats had kept them at peace. Human translators had helped them communicate. Human mediators had solved their disputes. Now, the humans were gone, and the old hatred had returned. "War," Kreth said simply. "Full-scale war. In 3 months, we have lost more soldiers to the Drathikel-Voran conflict than we lost in the previous 50 years. Morvac buried his face in his hands. "How did this happen?" he whispered. "They were just humans. They were nothing. They were insects." An old voice spoke from the back of the chamber. It was Scholar Vron, the oldest member of the council. He had been silent for many years, watching and learning. "That was our mistake," Vran said. "We thought they were nothing. We treated them as nothing. But they were not nothing. They were everything." He walked slowly to the center of the chamber. His ancient body was weak, but his mind was sharp. "They connected us," he said. "They fed us. They healed us. They maintained our stations and flew our ships and fought our wars. They did the work we considered too low for ourselves, and we never thanked them. We never even saw them." He looked around the room at the frightened faces of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "Oh, they are gone, and we are learning what they were worth." The chamber was silent. Outside, the stars continued to shine, but the galaxy they illuminated was beginning to die. And somewhere, in a dimension beyond reach, 28 billion humans were building something new, something better, something that would never treat anyone as insects. They did not know what was happening to the council. They did not care. 1 year had passed since the humans left. The Galactic Council was dying. High Chancellor Morvac sat alone in his chambers. The golden chair that once made him feel powerful now felt like a prison. Reports covered his desk. Each one brought worse news than the last. The economy was collapsing. Human traders had connected 340 star systems. They carried goods from one end of the galaxy to the other, They knew the routes. They knew the prices. They knew how to make deals that benefited everyone. Without them, trade had stopped. Planets that once exported food now starved. Worlds that once manufactured ships now sat idle. Species that once prospered now fought over scraps. 3 alien civilizations had already fallen below survival level. Their populations were dying. Their governments had collapsed. Soon, they would be extinct. Morvac read the numbers and felt nothing. He had stopped feeling months ago. General Kreth entered without knocking. His uniform, once bright and proud, was now dirty and torn. The military had fallen apart. How bad? Morvac asked without looking up. The fleet is at 31% capacity, Kreth said. We cannot crew the ships. Humans made up 60% of our maintenance staff and 40% of our pilots. The ships we have are breaking down. We do not have parts. We do not have technicians. And the Outer Rim... Kreth paused. Lost, pirates and warlords control everything beyond the core worlds. We sent a fleet to restore order last month. They did not return. Morvac finally looked up. Did not return? What do you mean? I mean, they are dead. All of them. The ships, the crews, everyone. The pirates have better weapons now. They raided our supply stations while we were busy starving. The Chancellor closed his eyes. Once, the Council military had been the greatest force in the galaxy. Now it could not protect a single shipping lane. What about the research facilities? Morvac asked. The scientists said they were close to new technologies. New food sources? New medicines. Kreth laughed. It was not a happy sound. The scientists lied. Or perhaps they did not lie. Perhaps they simply did not know. He threw a datapad onto the desk. I found the records. Every major research project in the past 200 years had human assistants. Lab workers, we called them. Cleaners and note-takers. So they were not cleaners. They were not note-takers. They were doing the actual work. Our scientists took credit, but the humans made the discoveries. Now the humans are gone. Our scientists cannot continue. They do not know how. Morvac stared at the datapad. 200 years of scientific achievement, all of it built on human minds, human hands, human dedication. And they had called them insects. Across the galaxy, Scalaveron was dying. The old alien lay in a hospital bed that had no power. The machines that could save him sat silent. There were no humans to operate them. A young student sat beside him. Teacher, she said, is it true what they say? That the humans knew this would happen? Vrand smiled weakly. No, child. The humans did not want this. They wanted to be partners. They wanted to be friends. They spent 300 years hoping we would see their value. Then why did they leave? Because hope has limits. The old scholar coughed. His time was short. They gave us everything. Their labor, their skills, their lives. And we gave them nothing but contempt. Eventually, even the kindest heart grows tired of cruelty. He reached under his pillow and pulled out a small device. I found this in the archives. A human scientist left it behind. Dr. Hannah Kwan. She wrote notes before she departed. The student took the device. The words appeared on the screen, translated into her language. We always hoped they would see us as partners. They never did. So we built our own door, and we walked through it. We do not hate them. We are simply tired. So very tired. Student read the words 3 times. Each time, they hurt more. She did not hate us. She whispered. No, Vrand said. That is the saddest part. They never hated us. They just stopped hoping. And a galaxy without human hope is a galaxy without a future. He closed his eyes and did not open them again. The wars grew worse. Without human diplomats, the Drathian and Kelvorans killed each other by the millions. Without human peacekeepers, the Morvathi and Vorathi turned on each other. Old hatreds, held quiet for centuries, burst into flame. The council tried to negotiate. They sent their best speakers, their wisest leaders. It did not help. The aliens did not trust each other. They had only trusted the humans, who had no stake in their conflicts, who only wanted peace. Now the humans were gone, and peace went with them. Counselor Bellick stood on the balcony of his home and watched his city burn. The riots had started 3 days ago. Hungry people fighting hungry people for food that did not exist. His daughter Sierra stood beside him. She was healthy now. A human doctor, one of the last to leave, had cured her fever before departing. He had asked for nothing in return. "Father," Sarah said, "why did we treat them so badly?" Bellix had no answer. He had spent his whole life believing humans were inferior, stupid, worthless. Now his city burned because there were no humans to deliver food. "Repair power lines, maintain order." "I do not know," he finally said. "I do not know." In New Dawn, the humans knew nothing of this suffering. They were too busy building. Admiral Taiho Park oversaw the construction of 12 new worlds. Dr. Hannah Kwan designed cities and hospitals and schools. Ambassador Dong Sushin wrote the laws of their new civilization, laws that said all beings had value, laws that said no one would be called inferior, laws that said kindness was not weakness. Sometimes, late at night, Taiho would look at the dimensional barrier that separated them from council space. He wondered what was happening there. He wondered if they had learned anything. Then he would shake his head and return to work. He had a civilization to build, a better civilization. The council had made its choices. Now they were paying the cost. 3 years after the humans departed, the Galactic Council finally admitted the truth. They needed help. High Chancellor Morvac stood before the communication array and prepared to beg. His golden robes were faded now. His palace was cold because there was no one to maintain the heating systems. His empire was falling apart around him. "Citizens of Earth," he said into the void, "humans of the galaxy, we made mistakes. We treated you poorly. We did not see your value. We are sorry." He paused. The words felt strange in his mouth. He had never apologized to anyone before. "Please come back. We offer you everything. Full citizenship. Seats on the council. Payment for all the years of service. Whatever you want, we will give you. Just ... Please come back." The message was sent to every corner of known space. It echoed through empty stations and abandoned colonies. It bounced off asteroids and disappeared into the darkness between stars. "No," one answered. Investigator Vorin was the best tracker in the Kelvorian system. He had found criminals who had hidden for decades. He had located ships that had vanished in deep space. Now, he had the most important mission of his life: find the humans. For 2 years, he searched. He visited every human colony, now empty and silent. He studied every record, every ship log, every piece of evidence left behind. Slowly, he began to understand. They did not just leave, he reported to the council. They moved to another dimension, a parallel space. They call it New Dawn. General Kreth leaned forward. "Can we follow them?" "No, the technology is beyond us. Dr. Hannah Kwan invented something we cannot understand. Something we were told was impossible. But she did it anyway." Counselor Bellick spoke quietly. "We told her it was impossible. We told her humans were too stupid to understand advanced physics. We laughed at her research proposals." The chamber was silent. They had all laughed. They had all been wrong. Then came unexpected news. A human had stayed behind. Her name was Suji Yoon. She was a starship captain who had married an alien, Kelvorian named Torvin. When the humans left, she chose to stay with her husband. She was now the most valuable person in the galaxy. Morvac summoned her to the council chamber. Guards escorted her in, but they did not treat her like a prisoner. They treated her like a queen. They bowed. They offered her food and drink. They called her Honored One. Suji found it strange. 3 years ago, these same species had called her an insect. They had spat on her kind. They had watched humans die without care. Now they smiled and begged for her help. Captain Yoon, Morvac said carefully, we need your assistance. We need to contact your people. We need to tell them we are sorry. Suji looked at the Chancellor. She remembered her father, who had worked in council mines for 40 years and died without ever receiving the medical care he needed. She remembered her sister, who had been killed on Kelthor, while the council fleet watched and did nothing. Why should I help you? She asked. The council members looked at each other. They had no answer. They had done nothing to deserve her help. They had only done harm. It was Councillor Bellix who finally spoke. Because we are dying, he said. And because you are human, and humans, for some reason I will never understand, help even those who have hurt them. Suji stared at him for a long moment. Then she laughed softly. You are right, she said. We do. It is probably our greatest weakness. And our greatest strength, she agreed to send a message to New Dawn. 3 days later, Admiral Taiho Park responded personally. His face appeared on the council's main screen, older now, but still calm, still steady. Hi, Chancellor, he said. I received your message. I have considered your offers. I have discussed them with our government. Morvac leaned forward eagerly. And will you return? Taiho's expression did not change. You called us insects. You let our children die on Kelthor. You laughed when we left. Now you come begging. The Chancellor opened his mouth to speak, but Taiho continued. We built a new galaxy, Chancellor. 12 worlds, thriving, happy, free. We did in 3 years what the Council could not do in 10,000 years. Our people have food. Our people have medicine. Our people have peace. The answer is no. We will not return. Morvac's face fell. Around him, council members gasped in despair, but Taiho was not finished. However, he said, and his voice softened slightly, we will not abandon those who are innocent. Your wars and famines have created refugees. Millions of beings with nowhere to go. Children who have done no wrong. He looked directly into the camera. Send them to us. Send your sick, you're starving, you're desperate. We will help them. We will feed them and heal them and give them homes. This is not for you, Chancellor. This is because it is right. Morvac felt a strange emotion. Something he had not felt in years. Shame? You would help us? After everything we did? We would help them, Taiho corrected. The innocent. The suffering. The ones who played no part in your cruelty. As for the council itself, you made your choice long ago. You are living with the consequences. Is there nothing we can do? Nothing to make things right? Taiho considered the question. Learn, he finally said. Learn from this. Remember what happened when you treated an entire species as worthless. Remember what it cost you. And if you ever meet another young civilization asking to join your alliance, remember us. Remember the humans. And do better. The transmission ended. Morvac sat in silence for a long time. Around him, the council chamber was quiet. No one had words left. They had been given a second chance. Not for themselves, but for the innocent lives they could still save. It was more than they deserved. Far more. 10 years had passed since the humans departed. The Galactic Council no longer existed. The great chamber where leaders once gathered was empty now. Dust covered the golden chairs. Wind blew through broken windows. The symbol of the council, once displayed with such pride, lay shattered on the floor. 5 species had gone extinct. Their worlds were empty. Their histories were forgotten. Their children had starved while the powerful fought over scraps. 3 more species had fallen back to primitive times. They no longer had spacecraft. They no longer had technology. They lived in caves and huts, struggling to survive, wondering how their ancestors had once ruled the stars. The survivors scattered across the galaxy. Some hid in remote systems. Some wandered as refugees. Some simply gave up and waited to die. High Chancellor Morvac was among the dead. He had refused to leave his palace as his world burned. General Kreth had died in battle, fighting pirates he could not defeat. Councillor Bellix had survived, but he had lost everything. His wealth, his power, His pride, only scholar Vron's final student, remained to tell the story. Her name was Mira. She traveled from world to world, speaking to anyone who would listen. "Remember the humans," she would say. "Remember what we did to them? Remember what it cost us." Most did not want to hear. The truth was too painful. But the story spread anyway. And slowly, survivors began to understand. They had destroyed themselves. Not through war or disaster, but through arrogance. Through treating others as worthless. Through believing they were better than everyone else. The lesson came too late for them. But perhaps it would help someone else in New Dawn. The humans had built something beautiful. Admiral Taiho Park. Now, an old man stood on the observation deck of the capital city. Below him, towers of glass and steel rose toward the sky. Gardens filled with flowers from 100 worlds spread across the horizon. Children played in parks that seemed to go on forever. 12 human worlds, 28 billion humans. All of them free. All of them happy. All of them home. But they were not alone. When Taiho had offered to help the refugees from Council Space, he had not expected so many to come. Millions had crossed through the dimensional gates, then tens of millions. Then hundreds of millions of Arathi and Calvorians, Drothi and Morvathi. Species that had once looked down on humans now came begging for shelter. They came sick and starving. They came with nothing but the clothes on their backs, and the humans took them in. All of them. Dr. Hannah Kwan had designed the refugee cities. Simple homes with clean water and warm beds. Hospitals where alien doctors worked alongside human doctors. Schools where alien children learned beside human children. Why do we help them? A young human had once asked her. They treated us like animals. They watched our people die. Hannah had smiled sadly. Because they are suffering. Because their children are innocent. Because if we become like them, then they have one. They have turned us into the monsters they thought we were. She had looked out at the refugee camps, where Varathi mothers fed human food to their babies. We are better than our anger. We are better than our pain. We help because helping is who we are. 47 refugee colonies now dotted New Dawn. Alien species that had once been enemies now lived side by side. They worked together. They ate together. They raised their children together. It was not perfect. Old hatreds sometimes flared. Old wounds sometimes opened. But slowly, day by day, the walls came down. Ambassador Dongsu Shin was 94 years old now. His body was weak, but his mind was still sharp. He had lived long enough to see his dream come true. A true alliance of equals. A civilization built on respect, not contempt. A galaxy where everyone had value. His granddaughter Yaren stood beside him on the observation deck. She was young, only 25, but she had already become one of the finest. Diplomats in New Dawn. She had helped negotiate peace between the Drothi and Kelvoran refugees. She had established trade routes between human and alien colonies. Grandfather Yaren said, "Do you ever regret leaving?" Dongsu watched the sun set over the capital city. Orange and gold light painted the towers. In the parks below, a Vorathi child shared food with a human boy. They were laughing together. "No," he said quietly. "I do not regret leaving. I regret that it took our leaving for them to understand what we were worth." He paused, remembering the old council chamber, the golden chairs, the mocking laughter, the word insects spoken with such contempt. "But perhaps it is better this way," he continued. "Here we are not tolerated. We are not used. We are not the lowest tier of someone else's civilization. We are simply home." Yaren took his hand. "And the aliens? The refugees? Do you think they have learned?" Dongsu looked at the Varathi child and the human boy. They were building something in the sand now. A castle, perhaps, or a spaceship. Their species had nearly destroyed each other once. Now their children played together without fear. "Some have learned," he said. "Not all, but some, and that is enough." That is how civilizations change. Not all at once. One person at a time. One child at a time. The sun touched the horizon. The first stars appeared in the darkening sky. New stars. Different stars. The stars of new dawn. Dongsu smiled. I will not live to see what this civilization becomes, he said. But I know it will be good. I know it will be kind. Because it was built by humans who chose to help even those who had hurt them. And that is the strongest foundation any civilization can have. The stars grew brighter. The city lights came on below. Somewhere in the parks, a child laughed. Humanity had departed quietly from the old galaxy. They had taken nothing and asked for nothing. They had simply walked away, and in doing so, they had built something the Galactic Council never could. A place where everyone belonged. A place where no one was an insect. A place called home.